announcements. So next week is fall break for everybody, but Baudl will still be doing instead of practice, we'll have office hours available for students. So if you would like to meet with myself or any other instructor, whether it be Jasmine for varsity, Brooke for JV, Sakai for novice, if you would like to meet with us, we're asking you to schedule times for you to, get one-on-one practice with us next week. So again, it won't be like a live practice session, but office hours will instead be offered throughout the week for you guys to sign up and meet with us so we can work on getting ready for tournament. Tournament is happening December 5th and 6th. It is only a 2-day tournament for students that are in JV and varsity high school. It is a 1-day tournament for everybody else. It is only December 5th. Oh, excuse me. If you're looking for the schedules of where you can find tournament, if you want to see what is the schedules for today, you go to students, and I'll post the link to this folder as well. But it's where all of your guys' materials are basically for our program instruction. So you go to students. I'm going to click on tournaments. This tournament is called Fall Championships. You're going to click Fall Championships. And depending on what day you're looking for, you're going to be able to find it here, whether it be High School Policy Day 1, Middle School Fall Championships, or High School Policy Day 2. All the tournaments can be found there. I'm going to share the link in the chat as well, but that is where you guys can see the schedule for what are we planning to do for December 5th and 6th. So you guys can start making yourselves available. Again, if you haven't already, please make sure you signed up for Slack, because that is how we communicate and how we are going to operate for the main day. It'll operate like the same thing that we did on our first tournament. Well, a Zoom chat will be open in the morning, and then all of you will be able to join in on Zoom, check in that you plan on participating, and then you'll be sent a link from tabroom.com. From there, you'll go into a room. In the room, you'll see you, your opponent, your judge, and your partner. So you can see everybody in there, and you'll begin your round. And then if you don't have any of those things working, then you'll come back to Zoom. Don't just sit there, because we don't know. So come back to Zoom, and you're going to go ahead and tell us what's going on, and we're going to put you in a breakout room in Zoom. So if things fail at tournament, you just come back to Zoom, but the chat will be open the entire day. So that's one thing. That's our schedule for December 5th and 6th, and that's our tournaments. And then trophy pickup. So to better organize how you guys are going to get your awards from participating in this tournament, you can go ahead and fill out this form and let us know how you want your trophy, whether you want it mailed to you or you want to participate in the curbside pickup. Curbside pickup happens the Fridays after tournament. So if you're one of those people that would like to just come and get yours in person, that option is available, but you need to check that off ahead of time. We do not we don't do the trophy pickups the day of. We try not to organize that on the same day. So if you know now that you would like yours either mailed to you or you would like to pick yours up, you can go ahead and fill out that form. Let us know how we should get your trophy together for you for competing next month. So yeah, that is my announcements. If there is no questions, we are going to go into breakout room. So I'm going to give you guys about a 7-minute break, if possible. About 3:55, we'll return and we'll get started in breakout rooms. So at 3:55, you'll be placed into your breakout room. Again, if you haven't in the chat, please make sure that you put where you're supposed to be, so I can send you to the respective room. So we got 3:55. Plan to return, please. We're going to work on flowing. So I know that a couple of you guys have been here and heard that before, but we have some new people. So it's always good to refresh, like, what is flowing, Miss Mya? So first things first, just like I'm doing, when you come to practice, you always need paper, pen, pencil, whichever you're going to use, right? You got to take notes. I'm not just talking because I'm cute, that too, but you need to take notes on what I'm saying, right? It's important because I'm not just talking because I'm just talking, as much as I like y'all. So make sure you always have pen and paper. You're going to be so important in a debate round because most of a debate round is really about listening. And I know you're like, well, no, I'm a debater. I'm mostly talking. No, you're not. So let's break that down when I say no, you're not, right? So on page, I think it's 3. Okay. On page 3 of the Baudl evidence pack, the way that our debate rounds in public forum are built is like this, right? So you have 2 speakers in a debate round. That's you and your partner. And remember, you're taking notes on this because you want to know how do I know who's the one of the 2? The first speaker should be somebody that will present your case. That means that's the person who's laying down the evidence about how our debate is about to go. You're the person that's saying that the United States should implement a no first strike policy. That is you, right? You're laying down all the evidence as to why that's important, why we should do it, and who do we help, right? The who, what, when, where, how. Then you're going to have speaker 1 constructor come up, who is now doing the negative side of the case. Their job is to say why we should not do a strike first policy and why that's not the way that we should do these things. That person has 4 minutes to speak. You then have a thing called Crossfire. So Crossfire happens after the 2 for 1 speakers have already spoken. It's a time for those 1 speakers to now ask questions of one another. So the way you do this is you're either asking questions to get better understanding of what they were reading and what they were talking about in their case, or 2 is to trap them up. It is not, and I repeat, you should take notes on this, it is not for you to start talking and just prove your point. It's like if they call timeout and for some reason you started shooting at the free throw line. Nobody's counting that. You just look crazy. So you have to be making sure I'm asking questions. A question is not. So when you said Peter Pan jumped off the moon and then I said that wasn't true and then that said and this and then there. So what do you feel about? That's not a question. A question is, who's going to help your plan? Who's going to implement your plan? What does your plan mean? Who will be most impacted? Impacted means who will it hurt the most or help the most, right? Things like that. How much is this going to cost? These are all really good questions that you can ask no matter who you're in a round against. So you can also, because all of you guys have the same evidence, whether you're AF or neg and your opponents have the same evidence, you can start making questions ahead of time that you know you want to ask your opponents that are really good questions. That's a great strategy to know. Emily, yes. You can slack me too. If you want to get your last one, yes. Just slack me and say, I want my last trophy. I didn't get it. And so that is the first constructives, and that's Crossfire. Any questions about that? Give me thumbs up or something if y'all understand what I just said.
I have a question, not about this, but like I don't go to Parkside or Hybrid Middle School for the partnerships.
Who is that? Who's
Yeah,
speaking? Okay. I know I just put you on here. There we go. Okay. Hybrid means y'all are a mix of schools. So if you don't go to Parkside, what school you go to so I can put that?
Martin Luther King Jr. Middle School.
Got you. Okay. Okay, hold on, you guys, 1 second. Yeah, you can't whistle. Go close that door. Okay. So going back to how a round is built together, right? So then after you go to Crossfire, speaker 2 now gets up. So yes, thank you, Anoki. Great. Anoki is also here to be y'all mentor and help you guys. That is my son Kai.
Hi.
So I know y'all don't really see him. He usually at practice, but that is Mr. Kai. Like,
I got this cookie.
You don't need a cookie. Go sit down.
Fine.
Eat that cookie so you can go read, please.
Okay.
All right. So then we have speaker 2. Yeah, I told y'all I'm a mama. I just talk like that. I tell y'all that all the time. Like, speaker 2 is a rebuttal, right? So this is when, 1. If I'm speaker 2, when speaker 1s are speaking, I'm taking notes. You're not just sitting there and looking at baby Jesus. What are unicorns like? What do I smell like? You're taking notes. You're like the whole 8 minutes and that Crossfire. You want to be able to track this down. What are they talking about? How are they talking about it? What are the main points of this argument they were trying to make? You don't just take notes of what you feel is important. You take notes of everything, because you can't have an argument if you only listen to what you felt like was important. And then you'd be Donald Trump. That doesn't make any sense. We want to teach y'all to be better debaters than that. You just can't listen to what applies to me. You can't just say, well, that sounded important, but it didn't say my name, so I don't listen. That's crazy. You can't do that. So speaker twos, right? So when speaker twos get up now, the speaker ones are the ones who are taking notes, because you're about to get up after that and you got to continue on what speaker two arguments they were making and extend your own arguments from when you presented your case. So that's why it's so important to take notes, because you need to visualize, where are these arguments going? Who are they talking about? What are they talking about? So speaker two, you have 4 minutes to refute the opposing side's arguments. So that's going to be the pro case. So you just heard the negative say why no strike policy is not good. We should not do it. Now you're going to get up there and you're going to share more arguments that share why it is important that America adopts this policy and how much help it would be. So you're further bringing on, you're now reading more evidence if you want to, or you're making analytical arguments. Analytical means off the mind arguments directly against the negative. You have to argue against, they're not ships passing in the night. You have to show where they clash or you're going to lose. That's why you have to take notes, because you have to think strategically. What are they saying and what arguments match to what I'm saying and make them clash? That is what speaker twos are doing, which is why it's called a rebuttal, right? So then they have Crossfire. Again, Crossfire is for you to get a better understanding. So the speaker twos are the ones that are doing that Crossfire, right? The thing about Crossfire is this is like the time where you're, again, using it to get a better understanding or trip somebody up. An example I use of what that looks like, when I was a debater, the topic was about solar energy, right? This is 10 years ago. So the topic was solar energy, and that we had to come up with a plan that the United States would agree to do solar energy to help us get off of using dirty energy, right? My partner and I knew that in order for a plan to work, meaning that the solar energy would be strong enough to combat the bad things that were happening because of the type of energy we're going to use anyway, we knew that the minimum that plan that the AF had to present would need to be 75%. So in CrossX, we would ask our opponents, how much energy does your plan to produce? Because we had evidence that showed anything less than 75% was doomed to fail anyway. So we wouldn't sit in CrossX and say, if your plan is at 75%, do you know your plan isn't going to work? So therefore, how much is your plan going to do? That's crazy. We just used it after in CrossX, we got that information from them. We then used it in one of our speech times to make it relevant information to further prove our case. Do y'all understand that? So it's to trap or get better understanding. Maybe you really didn't understand what they were saying in their plan. Maybe it didn't make sense. Maybe they said something crazy. That is when you ask them. You also have 2 minutes of prep time during the round. Prep time is for you and your partner to discuss the strategy you plan to use for the remaining parts of the round. It is not a good strategy to run out your entire 2 minutes. It's not a good strategy. You also should never use prep time before Crossfire. Why? You should already have your questions together before Crossfire happens, or it makes it look like you weren't listening and taking notes the last 8 minutes they were talking. So you should have these things ready. So then, after the pro, speaker, and Crossfire, we're going to go into summaries. So speaker one is going to be the ones that are beginning to setting the main issues in the round and why you're winning them. So you're starting to bring it home on why it's so important that the United States needs a no strike first policy. You're now looking at your notes and you getting down to the meat of the round. What are we talking about when we say no strike first policy? What does that look like? Who is it going to hurt, right? Then you have speaker one from the con side. They're going to get up and give 2 minutes explaining the same thing as to why a no strike policy is no good, doesn't help, etc., right? So then you have a thing called grand crossfire. This is when all of the debaters ask questions of each other at the same time. It can sound hectic, but it doesn't have to be. You just go on one by one and asking questions. And this is to better get a better understanding again of what are the real issues of this round? What are we really discussing? Because then you have what is called a final focus. In your summary and final focus, you cannot read new evidence. Do you hear me? It is like traveling your ball in basketball. You cannot run down the court and shoot thin from half court and you did not dribble. So there is no evidence. Do you hear me? When you get down to these summaries and these final focuses, I'm no longer reading the evidence pack because we should be talking about the arguments, the most important arguments from the round at that point. I'm not making new arguments. I'm not extending my arguments. I'm not bringing in new evidence to dispute theirs. All of that should have been used in your rebuttals and constructives. When you get to summary and final focuses, there is no new evidence allowed to be read. So you can't say, oh, I won't read this card now because they brought up that point, or I forgot they had brought up that point. You have already lost that argument. Do you understand? Questions about the structure of the round? Okay. So then I want to go into what is flowing, right? So flowing is the way that we take notes. It's important to us because it's how you take notes. So in this form, I'm about to share it with you guys. You can make your sheets of paper the same way, or you can print out a couple of these if you would like. But this is the flow paper is what it's called, which is a way of taking notes. As you see at the top of this, it has constructive, rebuttal. So it has also the frames of your speech at the top of it, which is why it's pretty useful. But as you guys become stronger debaters, you guys won't really need to write that on top. You'll just, you'll know how much it is. But this is to help you. Again, you can print out a couple of these. You can make your own, but you must have these every single round you go into. Like, and matter of fact, if you can send me a picture of who got the best flow after our next tournament, I get you a prize. I want to see who taking notes. Like, you have to take notes. As you see, it's a column for every speech, not just your speech. You see, I didn't scribble out just one side, anything like that. So we want to go ahead and say, so you guys see the flow paper, right? So I know you like, well, how do I use this, Ms. Maya? What does that look like? Well, that's not what I'm looking for. Hold on. Where is it? Hold on, y'all. I'm trying to find the one that is like written out for you guys.
Sorry, I accidentally disconnected from the breakout room with Soraya, I think her name was. I'm sorry, I accidentally disconnected, so I don't know what happened.
Got you. Okay.
So I'm here. I will add you to novice. All right, and I think that's everyone. Okay.
Yeah, I think you good, Kai. Thank you. So then you have, this is another way, as I'm sharing y'all the screen, another way you guys can, if that's easier for you to see it. Summary, final focus. But you have to take notes. Hold on. I'm looking for this other one. It's one that they. Okay, so here's how I'm gonna just make it, and I'll show you guys that. So it's another way to flow. If you guys have Excel, I don't know if everybody has it, but there's another way to flow. If you would preference to use a computer, I use I usually handwrite. As you guys see, I take notes because it's easier for me to track. But so like you would put first what is it, constructive at the top, and you would make the form like first constructive, right? So here is where the first constructives would be like my flow sheet, right? Trying to make it mimic this one. That's what I'm trying to make, but I would just use this Excel if you want to track it online to better make it. Still using the same, headers and stuff, rebuttal. And I would do these over and over and save. The thing about these notes is that you save them after each round because that is how you can see, well, how did I lose? How did I win type of thing, right? You can better track it. And if somebody uses a good argument on you, you can then use it. So here we are with the first speech. So now I'm gonna open up this middle school pack that we have. So the arguments in this month's topic, right? This month's topic, this is all about on this page, on page 4, is how to use your evidence pack. So again, new evidence can't be read in certain parts of the speech. Make sure you read how do you use this evidence pack and you ask some questions if you don't understand it, preferably before tournament. So here's the thing about debate. I can't really explain to you what it's like doing a debate round. If y'all don't practice in front of me or practice with me, it's kind of like I'm a lifeguard at the pool. You would want to show me you can swim while I'm at the pool. But if you preference to just go ahead and swim when I ain't here, then it's all on you. But that's just the risk you take. There's no way for me to explain debate. There's no way to get over it. Nobody can help you with that. Either you're going to debate or you're not. But there's no way around it. You don't get to see the experience and be like, oh, that made me ready. No, it doesn't. That's like me saying, oh, I can swim now because I watch Michael Phelps. You're going to die. So you need to really be strategic about how am I using my practices? How am I using Miss Maya's time? And how am I using my time to get better in debate? So when you see a box like this, it means that you're supposed to summarize or write things in your own opinion. So you're supposed to read the card. Step 1, comprehension. What is the card saying? So you need to read it, comprehend it, and then in your own words, summarize what they were trying to say in that box. That will help you better understand those cards. And then when you're reading through them in the actual round, you can better get through what are you trying to say, right? You shouldn't be reading a card you haven't read ever in your life at the tournament, like, because you won't know and you'll sound like you don't know. So underlining. Some evidence is already underlined for you guys and some of it is not. But underlining is super important. If you guys don't know what underlining is, you guys just, highlight it and throw this on it. And there you go. You can underline it like that. You guys also have the option to get hard copy evidence, which means the paper evidence. So if you would preference that evidence, all you gotta do is just let me know, and that's being mailed to y'all. Like I said, as soon as we get it, it's picked up it just got picked up like 30 minutes ago. So yeah, if you would want the hard copy one, citations. So oh, citations are basically who did you get that evidence from? It is how you cite your evidence. Like I couldn't tell y'all the reason America shouldn't do a U.S. strike policy is because my uncle on Facebook told y'all that. Y'all would think I was crazy. So you need a little bit of evidence. Can't say, well, South Park told me it's true, therefore it is. That's not evidence. So how do I read this? An example would be, according to Cyber Defense Magazine in 2019, and you'll see that right above your cards. You don't have to read all of this. They don't need you to read cyberdefensemagazine.com at HE. You sound nuts. Don't read that. Okay. Good to know. So if somebody challenges your evidence and they're like, hey, where did you get that from? You could be like, oh, I got it from this website in this article, and here's exactly where you can find it. Or if you want to be smart, you can go look it up yourself and read that evidence more to get a better understanding of what were they trying to say, so that you're more advanced on the article because you read it all the way. So that is y'all evidence. So then we break into it. What are we talking about for this month's topic? So the pro case. The United States should adopt a declaratory nuclear policy of no first use, right? So I'm going to hear that in a round. I'm going to say United States adopt a no use for strike force policy. Right? Because I'm gonna be listening to somebody in a round. So I'm gonna write that down because that's important. That's their case. That's basically the topic. What are we talking about in this debate? We talking about dolphins, we talking about trees, we talking about monkeys. They telling you we're gonna be talking about a no strike policy, right? So I'm gonna write that down. That's important. It says in short here, you're going to get a quote or something from a famous person or an important statistic that is shocking or a story related to the topic. So you're going to do the research on that and find me a good quote on why it's important that the United States adopt the declaratory nuclear policy on no first use. I swear you can find something. Baby Jesus wrote something about war. I'm sure you're going to find something. So my partner and I firmly affirm the resolution which states the United States should adopt a declaratory nuclear policy for no first use. They have 3 reasons. Those are your 3 arguments. So if I am the pro case, I need to make sure that these arguments stay alive the entire debate, because those are the arguments that I'm saying is the reason why we should adopt this policy in the first place. You good, Emily? Oh, you good, Sophia? Okay, so the 3 reasons. Nuclear first use violates central tenets of war theory, right? So I'm going to write that. U.S. violates central to war theory. Cool. Got that. So I know that they're going to run that argument. So then they like, okay, we then going to go into 2. A no first use doctrine would simplify America's nuclear arsenal by reducing the capabilities required for deterrence and brinksmanship. The use cases being more limited, NFU enables America to reduce the size of our nuclear bloated arsenal. So that basically all that just meant is they want to reduce the size of America's nuclear arsenal because it's dangerous, right? So they saying that's important, right? U.S. decrease nukes capabilities because it's dangerous. That's the argument they're making. And then the third argument is, you see, I'm just going back and forth, and you can do this on your own too. No first use reduces possibility of collateral damages. So I know that they're going to go for collateral damages. So I'm going to put that there. Do you see how I have all the arguments that I need to follow now as they read through what they're talking about? Y'all understand that? Do you see how that's tracked right there of like, what are they talking about? Do you see how I didn't put down what I want them to say? I didn't put down what I think they're going to say. I didn't put down what the elf on my ear told me to say. I wrote down exactly what they said, what they're going to say. You need to be clear. It ain't about how you feel about the situation. It is about what are they asking you? What is the black and white saying? So you have to be strategic because your emotions being tied into this, nobody wants collateral damages. But do people die in war? Absolutely. So you need to write that down. So then they got their 3 arguments out. I'm the pro case. This is my 3 arguments, right? Contention 1 means point 1, right? So remember, we already tracked down what they point 1 is saying. So in contention 1, they saying the U.S. nuclear doctrine is unpopular and reckless. I'm going to say, according to Litwin in 2006. So you're just going to read right here. That should be in yellow. And this should be in yellow because you're going to read that. You're going to read that. When you in there talking, if you're the first speaker, This is what you're reading. You're not reading this entire card. You're reading the summary of that evidence in your own words. You're reading contention one, according to Linwood in 2006. And then I'm going straight into the card, right? I'm going to figure out what is this card trying to say. I'm not about to read this card because Miss Maya been reading evidence all weekend, but you going to read this card. And you're going to highlight what was important of this card. And you're going to read all of the card. And then you're going to summarize what did you think the card was trying to say? Because when you're in a debate round, remember, you only got 4 minutes. So you probably don't have time to read them the doctrine of war. That probably ain't you and your partner's strategy. So then we already know that they're going to go for that, right? So they read an argument that says U.S. doctrine unfavorable, right? So we know that. So I put a note that's like, okay, cards. So I know. Ugh. That's the thing about using Excel. It's not meant for this. So in cards, U.S. doctrine unfavorable. Cool. So then these are the cards they're reading. That's basically, here's the evidence they're using to back up why we should do these 3 things, why we should adopt this policy. Here is the 3 arguments they're making as to why we adopt this policy, right? The cards they're using is the U.S. doctrine is unfavorable. Cool. So then we go down to the next cards. Contention 2. So boom, you're going to read what? I'm going to read contention 2. And then I'm going to read according to, all of that is going to be highlighted because I'm going to read through it. And it says contention 2, no first use will reduce the sprawl of our nuclear forces. So they are saying, basically, this card sounds like it's telling me that U.S. nuclear forces, large and dangerous. Then you're going to go back. Well, you will be in a live round, so you continue to read. You're going to read that card off to them. Then you go to your final contention, your final point, right, as to why we should adopt the no first strike policy. So again, you highlight it, boom. Contention 3, first use policy is potentially indiscriminate and violates international humanitarian law, right? So that's your big one of like, it's illegal, right? Americans supposed to believe in this ideal that we don't get down like that and we're better than that. And our first use policy currently violates that from being true. So here goes that card. You're going to read that. So they made a big claim that's like, the biggest thing is it violates international humanitarian law. So that's going to be a big card. International humanitarian law. And as you guys see, the notes I'm writing, you don't have to write the complete thing. You can write in shorthand, meaning shorter language that you understand, so you can better track when somebody's talking. Because when they're talking, I guarantee they're not going to slow down for you to write that down. So you have to listen to what were their important points they're going to say. You know, when you hear the word contention, they're about to read that topic sentence off to you. So even if I don't hear that card, I hear that main point. You get what I'm saying? You got to train your brain to be a good listener. You can't just hear what baby Jesus is whispering in your ear. And I know I keep saying baby Jesus. I was watching Talladega Nights. So excuse me. So you can't just listen to him. You got to be like, what were they actually saying? What were their contentions? Did I write down all 3 contentions? Making sure you're following along, right? Asking your partner, what contentions did you hear? So to make sure, because you want to make sure y'all are both hearing the same thing. So then we go back to, okay, they're going to end out the speech. I'm the pro speaker. I'm now ending out my speech, my first speech. And this is what I'm going to say. So what I say is, in conclusion, my partner and I firmly agree the United States should adopt a declaratory nuclear policy of no first use. We use 3 main points to support the pro side. 1, nuclear first use violates central tenets of war theory. 2, a no first use doctrine would simplify America's nuclear arsenal by reducing the capabilities required for deterrence and brinksmanship. The use cases being more limited, NFU enables America to reduce and right size our bloated nuclear arsenal. Again, all that means limiting how many nuclears America has possession over, which is not a bad thing. And then the third point, lack of a no first use policy endangers millions. So that is the biggest take home point as to why it's so important, right? So then you're going to keep going down. So then you're going to remember you had that attention getting quote as to why America needs a no first use policy. You're going to then again read that aloud, right? You're going to put that there and then you're going to be dramatic and say, thank you. You know, your Cardi B look forever. That's what you're going to do. Thank you. So, yeah, Sophia, I got you. I'll move you. Any questions about the pro case so far? Ask me anything. No, y'all? All right, we got like 20 minutes. I'm going to try to get down through the rest of pro. And then for the next, in 2 weeks, the Wednesday before tournament, we'll go straight through the negative like we just did with this one. And yes, you can work on the negative. Yes, you're going to get the evidence packs. If you don't get yours, yes, you can harass me until it gets there. I'll give you that permission to just be like, hey, girl, checking the mail. I look like I'm looking for something else now. Like, so yes, I got y'all. So it says additional evidence for the pro. So that is going to be the second speaker. Remember how I said second speaker can also read evidence to help your partner extend those arguments. Your evidence is going to be found in additional evidence for the pro. That is where you can find that backup evidence so that you're not just saying, I agree. Because that is not going to help anybody. So as you see at the top, it's already labeled what cards go with what. So pro moral leadership is that whole United States should take a moral authority to be that we violate the war theory. That's where that goes, right? So the extended arguments to that is going to be the U.S. already recognizes that just war prevents the wanton use of nuclear weapons. So if Americans make a justified reason of going to war, then they learn that nuclear weapon use is not necessary because they don't have to use so much force. Nuclear weapons can only be ethically pursued when paired with robust limitation on the intended use. So this one is just saying that we use the weapons on people. It puts us in a moral paradox because we use weapons like them on people who don't have the capability to use them on us. So that's another argument the pro side would be making, right? Like we're using people. It's like we're getting in fist fights, and in the fist fight, I keep bringing guns to the fight. Eventually, somebody's gonna be like, "That ain't fair. That every time we try to fight her, she just keep bringing guns." Yeah, except America has a nuclear weapon that kills everybody in your country. So it makes it hard for people to like deal with you when you kind of do stuff like that. When you fighting and all of a sudden you got a tendency to fight dirty or like, try to poke people in the eyes type of thing and then say no poking eyes, you makes a problem. So then we have you have some more arguments for moral leadership. And then we have pro, the cost savings, right? So that's that argument that was saying that we're gonna, with cutting down how much of our nuclear arsenal we have, we also have a cost that we're also saving for Americans. So it's saying these changes will reduce the salience of nuclear weapons in the American force structure. Nuclear weapons are incredibly expensive, right? Not only are they expensive to make, they're expensive to store, all those things. So it's more than just saying, okay, we make it. Who keeps it? Who has the bomb codes? Who's over it? Who manages it? All those type of things have to be in account, right? Especially for a bomb that is used to kill everybody in the world. We're basically saying there's other ways we could be using that money than to store the I'm gonna kill everybody bomb. Get it? So then you're also saying cutting nuclear submarines would save billions. So again, another cost eliminated. And then collateral damage. So that's that argument that's talking about civilians and people being killed. So again, civilian collateral casualties in military operations happen all the time in the status quo. Status quo just means what's happening right now. So when you hear the word status quo, you're going to hear that word a lot. So you should write that down. When you hear people say, oh, that's just the status quo, they're saying in a fancy way, that's just what's happening right now. A lot of this is just figuring out language of like, I've heard these words before. Right. So you got to tell your brain, what is it saying when these words come up? So civilian collateral casualties in military happen all the time in the status quo. We know that's true, that anytime there's war, civilians are killed in war, and having nuclear weapons doesn't necessarily kill these leaders or ideals or countries or anything. It more so kills millions of civilians, right? Like that's what gets the attention of the news. That's what brings the outcry. It's not because you're killing military leaders, it's because you kill civilians, which is like me and you walking in San Francisco and somebody just drop a bomb because they mad at Trump. That's a civilian.
I read the book. Mommy, I read the book.
Projected nuclear military operation fatalities are in the millions. So driving home that point.
Oh.
Hypothetical collateral damage in accidental and deliberate nuclear military operations are astronomical. They are, because we don't know how much to predict, how much war costs. Impossible. And then the case for the negative starts on page 18.
I'm getting the tablet.
So that is the case for the negative. Any questions about that? I mean, case for the pro. Any questions about that?
Are we gonna get our own document so we can write on it?
Yes. You are going to get a hard copy, yes.
No, like our own document, like our own.
Oh, download it. It's a Word document. Download it and y'all can mark it up. Like it's
Mommy, my mouthpiece came off my helmet.
okay. I'll put it back. See where it says like right here, download. Y'all just go to the same thing for the doc and download it. You should be able to just download it.
I need some help. I totally don't.
And then I need to hold on, Sophia. Sophia, I got you. Okay. Any other questions about the evidence or anything about flowing so far? No? Okay, so I'm gonna try to get into the negative case because we got like 10 more minutes before we wrap up for today. Let me put that on the clock so I don't waste y'all time because I need to show y'all how to do this. So then boom, we go to the negative, right? So negative, we're gonna do the cross-X, we're gonna say why people need to die, why is war good, blah, 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 what's gonna happen. We go back and forth in our cross-X, right? So now it's the two turn. So the two been talking to his partner and they like, man, we gonna kick their butt because they don't know what they talking about. America gonna die, blah, 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 blah. Whole bunch of war. I can't believe I'm teaching middle schoolers about this. But like, just know the adults don't even have a damn clue. Like, I'll lock you in.
I need the shrimps.
Okay. Hold on. So case. First thing you get up there and say, you're saying the negative, right? The United States should not, and you see I put that in caps because you need to make sure you put some oomph on that. Put your chest in that one because you want to be clear. I am not here to adopt a declaratory nuclear policy of no first use. Not. My partner and I firmly believe the United States should not adopt a declaratory nuclear policy. Oh, there go your three arguments. So remember how we did that? We want to, wonder if I could just, I can. So boom. So then their first constructive, you want to say, no, I don't think we should have a no first use policy. So that is going to match right here, right? Their first constructive, no first use. Because I want to match it. Do you see how those arguments match each other? Because I want to make sure I'm tracking. Do what I'm saying match what they saying? Or are we talking about the same stuff or are these new arguments? So they saying, no first use would embolden North Korea. So this is the argument that they making. So it doesn't really match the war theory, but it's their first argument. So North Korea feels emboldened because you want to track everybody's arguments. North Korea feels emboldened. North Korea feels emboldened means that North Korea will try to attack Americans, right? That they would feel emboldened if they knew America didn't have nuclear permissions to strike back, that they would be more likely to strike us. 2, no first use policy would weaken the U.S. in the face of chemical, biological and cyber warfare, right? So the second argument they're trying to make, again, these arguments don't necessarily match on the same line. So as you see, I'm trying to make space for them to be somewhere else. So actually, I'm probably going to end up, I'll show you at the end. So let's see. Weakens America, welcomes USA to attacks. And then the third argument that I'm going to make as negative is other countries would develop their own nuclear weapons. So ultimately, it would be no point because other countries are going to develop nuclear weapons and kill us. So if we're not a superpower, we'll just be the one that is being attacked. So I'm gonna delete that from here. I'm gonna put this here because I see none of these arguments. Yeah, so I'm gonna put them there because I see that none of these arguments that I'm trying to make in the first constructive really match up or attack these arguments up here, right? They don't really say why the U.S. should decrease their nuke dangerousness. Doesn't really add. I'm not really answering how is collateral damage. Why people dying is important. Any of that. But these are the three arguments that I'm making in my first case as to why these things are important. That why we should not have that policy, right? So do you see that there's now 6 arguments alive in this debate? Do you see how that has expanded? And why you got to take note to everybody, not just baby Jesus on your shoulder and the butterfly. See, I added a butterfly. Like, so then they go into like, shoot, we only got 4 minutes. Okay, I gotta calm down. We're not in a real round. Like, so then you go into main point 1. So that is that contention. This is just another way of saying contention. Main point 1. North Korea represents one of the most pressing threats against the U.S. If the U.S. adopted a no first use policy, they might be emboldened to attack without fear or nuclear retaliation. So, fear of. So when y'all get that packet, ignore that. Make sure you put an F. Without fear of nuclear retaliation. That's according to a NIC in 2018. So you're going to read that card as to why North Korea is going to attack us. Point 2. The U.S. and the country, in the scenario that a country uses chemical, biological, or cyber attacks against the U.S., depending on how severe, it may be proportionate that for the U.S. to respond with nuclear weapons. If a first strike is no longer on the table, the U.S. may be short of options. So it's basically saying that if other countries use other methods of, like, maybe they don't have nuclear capabilities, but they still attack America with use of chemical, biological, or cyber attacks, that the U.S. not having a nuclear policy would take that off the table and limit what we could do back to them or how we could respond, right? It would be a deterrent. So like chemical attack is like in Syria, they like dropped bombs on their people and killed like masses of women and children and stuff like that. That's a chemical warfare. Biological warfare, I think, is like along the same thing. Like they try to say COVID is a biological warfare, but there's not really evidence about that. Cyber attacks is like what we have with Russia, not necessarily like going into the booths and voting for Trump, but being able to strategize that Americans could be easily impressed with propaganda and making sure that the right propaganda was fronted to the right voters who would then go out and vote in their favorability, right? So that's called a cyber attack because that's a whole massive scheme somebody had to come up with and implement. So it's saying like if America didn't have nuclear weapons to say, don't play with us or I'm going to bomb your country, that limits when people do stuff like that to us, how much we can really do to them, right? Like we could say, okay, I'm going to send troops to you, but does that really stop you from doing those things to us? No, but a nuclear weapon, if I say I'm going to kill your whole country or something like that or wipe y'all all out, most people stop. I know it sounds intense, but like this is foreign policy. That's why Donald Trump should not be the person working on our foreign policy, talking to these people, like, because they're not playing with him. Like, he's playing with them, but they're not playing with him. Like, so then we go into the last point. Boom. If the U.S. commits to never dropping a nuclear bomb first, other nations that rely on the U.S. for defense will become wary of escalating situations and develop domestic nuclear programs for reassurance. So that means that the people who we say we protect, they would feel that we could no longer protect them because we don't have our arsenal anymore. Therefore, they would start making their own arsenals, which would kind of be a problem maybe because the whole point they relied on us was for our military, and if our military is of no use to them, then we're of no use to them. So that always kind of puts Americans in a what happens to us if they don't really need us, or it's not a what happens, we don't know. Could it be war, could it be death? So those are the three arguments that you then have live on the board. So then the con says, in conclusion, my partner and I firmly believe the United States should not adopt a declaratory nuclear policy of no first use. We use three main points for the con side. North Korean has not ruled out nuclear first use. Current ambiguity provides the president with options in a crisis. So our president having multiple options as to what he can use to respond to a threat against Americans is what gives him some power. And that is true. And a state may want nuclear weapons if they don't trust their great power ally. So that means that other countries, smaller countries who we protect, they probably wouldn't trust us as much if we weren't able to protect them like we are with our military. And so if we decrease our military arsenal, then that kind of puts that seed of doubt in their minds. And that is the con argument. So then you guys will have, after these two speeches have went, you guys would have a cross ex, and then you guys would go into the rebuttal. So what I would do is me and my partner would look at all the arguments we have, right? Because now it's about to be the two speeches. I would look at all the arguments we have, and I would say, okay, as the pro side, not only do I have to extend my arguments, which means like imagine if I could draw an arrow right here, I have to make sure my arguments stay alive. I also need to now answer these arguments at the bottom, right? So that two-person, remember where that extra evidence is, like in the like how the negative is additional evidence, that's where their speech is going to pick up. The same is going to be true for your one. That additional speech, you're going to write out what are those 3 points you're trying to extend on. So more than likely, you're extending on these 3 points. So boom. Already know reading my card evidence, these are going to get answered, right? If I'm the two, but then I still got to answer these. So I need to now, I don't really have evidence to answer these. I have to now be strategic and say, why is this not going to happen, right? Why is North Korea feeling emboldened still not going to supersede why America needs a no first strike policy? Why is it, why would that be? Why is America being seen as losing an arsenal? How is that just in people's heads to think that America is going to be attacked? Is that a real threat? Is there a timeline on that? Right? You need to start thinking. And again, all of y'all have the same evidence. Y'all are all going to hit the same people. You can start answering this today. Like, other countries have nuclear weapons. You should be looking up how long does it take to make a nuclear weapon, right? How much does it cost to make a nuclear weapon? These other countries who we're protecting, how likely is it for them to get the resources and the time and the experience needed to truly create a nuclear weapon strong enough to attack somebody? Because then you need to now answer these, right? Because if here's the thing in debate, if I don't answer an argument, like I told y'all on Friday, if you don't answer an argument, then I'm to assume it's true. So if you completely ignore the first constructive for the negative side, then I think that, well, they telling us to get rid of nukes, but North Korea gonna kill us. I'm not voting for y'all. Like, you just said to ignore North Korea. No, you should answer this. So it's now 4:58. We're gonna do our regular closeout for today, our one good, one bad. Because I want to hear from y'all of just what did you think about today? All right, one good, one bad. Anoki.
No bad. It was a little hard for me to focus because there's like a lot going on in my house right now.
Oh, you're
But
fine.
yeah, but like the flowing was good, and like talking about the topics and flowing the cards was good.
Cool. Daniel, one good, one bad.
Um, One good thing is learning about all of this and the nuclear warfare and stuff. and one bad thing is we have to talk about it in the first place.
I wish I could snap, but 2 snaps to that. The fact that this is even a topic. Like, Ella, give me the real. How you feeling today? Like,
Um, for good, I'm very glad we got our evidence packet. Thank you, Miss Maya.
you're
Thank you a
welcome.
lot. I'm very glad we had a practice today because I was very bored. I hate Wednesdays because they're a secretness day that I always am just, Baudl, come on, let it be 3:30.
Good to
Um,
hear.
but no bads.
No bads? All right, all right. Leo, one good, one bad.
Definitely today was a good day. I thought the evidence pack was really interesting. And I'm glad that it's finally out. A bad thing is that practice is now ending, so I might have to listen to my little brother for extended periods of time.
Thank you, Leo. Okay, Zach is out for today, or his phone is dying. So Zach told us everything was good today, and I feel as if I know flowing slightly better. We're gonna keep flowing. We're gonna keep working on that, you guys. That's a skill that you're gonna use even in college or wherever you go. Is taking notes. Making sure, did I hear you correctly, or am I making that up? Very much a good skill to have. Madeline, one good, one bad today. No, Madeline.
One
Oh,
good was no, I'm here.
okay.
One good was that I got here, and one bad was that I was late. So yeah, sorry.
You're fine. We happy to have you. You fine. Natalie, one good, one bad.
One good thing was that the evidence packet came out and we got to go over it, and I don't really have any bad things.
Good. Happy to hear that. Sophia.
He's going somewhere, but I don't know where.
Sophia in the chat. It was really cool, but I'm sad it's ended earlier and I forgot what else I was gonna say. Thank you, Sophia.
Excuse me,
Sophie.
Mom, I think football canceled.
There's no bads for today, but in the beginning, I had so much on my plate because I'm a huge procrastinator, and I was really confused about debate. But now that we're kind of going more into detail about flowing and how we're going to put our speeches together, I'm feeling really confident about this tournament because I wasn't able to attend the other one. So
Y'all
yeah.
be stressing. Y'all are fine. Don't nobody bite. Y'all are going against y'all own classmates, yo. And if somebody cuss you out, you tell me immediately. Like, that's our rule.
Okay.
Like, if somebody is going crazy in the room, you immediately tell me. Yara, you're gonna close it out for us today. One good, one bad.
One major good thing is that like we actually have the evidence pack, and we actually get to like write the speeches.
Yes.
And one bad thing is that it's disappointing that this topic is an actual, like, it's a real thing. And another bad thing.
You said the sad part is that this is even a real thing.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. Just know the adults don't even know what to do. That's what I be trying to tell y'all. All right, my babies. I will.